What's going on, everybody? I'm Shane from Heads and Tails. Today we got Rubber Ducky with us, and we're going to be talking a little bit about genetics. Maybe what pairings would you like to do? What pairings make what happen, and stuff like that. So today I'm going to be covering a little bit of the basics, like, for example, a pastel clown. Now, most pastel clowns do not have... Oh, sorry. Turn this way, dude. Do not have that head pattern. They end up having more of what they call a shotgun look or a BB look, where it just looks like a bunch of dots all over their head. Now, to me, that is not the end of the world. But for going for a specific look, that might not be the way you want to go. In order to change that look, you can just add enchi, like we did. Add some enchi into your pastel clown and boom, turns the head pattern different. But it will reduce the dorsal. Now, if you're looking for something that's not going to necessarily reduce the dorsal, but still make something cool, you might have to change up the combo entirely. Now, I haven't actually been looking too much to see if acid clowns end up reducing the dorsal real bad, like a leopard clown does. But I have seen the head stamp on a bunch of acid clowns, and that's pretty cool. It stretches those BBs out and makes it look like stripes or something. So I mean, there's always room to do something with that project. I'm actually interested in that one a little bit later. I do have my acid fire pinstripe. Hopefully going to be laying some babies relatively soon. She went to the fire clown, so we could end up making some super fire acid pinstripe het clowns. Or, one of the coolest things about snakes is if you haven't gotten your snakes tested, it could end up being a het for clown and I didn't know it. And neither did the person that bought it, because I know the person I got this one from did not... make it themselves. They bought it. So sometimes whenever it's sometimes breeders don't necessarily mention the hets, especially if it's like a 50% het. Sometimes you don't even mention it. You mention it afterward, like, hey, this one's also possible het. I didn't want to put it in the listing because anything you don't guarantee, it's like, I don't know. There's always that, where somebody may not have listed the het. They might not have told you about it being het, or 50% or 66% het. So you always got that chance where you could end up making something really cool first shot, instead of what I'm going to be planning on doing is just basically keeping most of that clutch, that acid clutch, and I'm going to be putting it within a bunch of my other projects as they begin to develop. So one of our first projects, whenever we started, we were going for Axanthic Pieds. We're still going for them. It's just taking some time. We got T'Challa is going to go to Black Betty probably this year, and then about a year and a half we'll put him to Sylvia. Now, Black Betty is a black pastel, 100% het for Axanthic, 66% het pied. If she ends up proving out, we get black pastel double recessives. Those will look really cool. Anything that's going to be Axanthic black pastel pied is going to be really cool. Now, on the flip side of things, we have Sylvia, who is a pastel Axanthic. T'Challa is piebald, 100% het for Axanthic. A leopard pied, 100% het for Axanthic. He was bought as a possible leopard. The gentleman I got him from let me know, like, hey, whenever he makes babies, look at them. If they look like this, and this and that. Problem is that Axanthic, het for Axanthic, I should say, does almost the exact same thing as leopard in piebald. So it's tough to look at. I've looked at quite a few, and it's very tough to ID them. Some of ours were actually really easy to identify because they were like, you get the different color from the Axanthic, and then you end up getting the thickness of the pattern from the leopard. And some of them were pretty easy to identify. I still never sold them as leopard, though. Anything you can't be 100% sure on, you might not want to put that on your listing, you know? Do I believe they were, a few of them were leopard? Absolutely. Did I tell them? Absolutely. Absolutely. I said, hey man, they could be leopard, but them being 50% het for Axanthic, they could also just be het for Axanthic. They could be both. I'm just selling them as piebalds, 50% het Axanthic. If they are leopard, good for you. And yeah, basically everybody that's bought them are like, these are awesome. They're great looking snakes. And we had an awesome looking clutch of those pieds. As far as actually getting my double recessives going and all of that stuff, yeah, I realize I'm a few years away on all that stuff. It started as something I was like, oh, I'm going to look forward to doing this. But I figure by now, by the time I get that going, I'm actually going to have other stuff that I'm going to want to pair to it as soon as I make it. So pastel Axanthic pied and black pastel Axanthic pied are no longer even like halfway through the journey of what the end snake is, you know, what the end goal snake is. And that's one of the beauties of this thing, is that you start off with one plan. As you learn, you could either say, dang, I messed up and I got to scrap my whole plan, or your plan just evolves. You end up getting some really cool stuff and you're like, ooh, I got to find something for this to go to. You start acquiring other snakes from other places, whether you buy them, get them gifted, you know, it's very weird as to how it all happens and changes all the time. So, like, for example, in the end, I know I'm going for quad recessives with codoms. But what quad recessives and what codoms are really the real trick there, because just because there is a bunch of expensive genes in the snake does not mean the snake is going to look good. I want to keep that beauty appeal up to really have them something really cool to look at. Like, for example, whenever I'd first seen a Pompeii that had blown my mind, I was like, oh, wow, a Pompeii. And I started thinking, oh, I'm going to go for a Pompeii and this and that. And I'd actually bought a bunch of stuff to go towards it. I even got a red stripe up there that was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then as I grew, I realized I don't want to just create someone else's project. I want to create my own. So unfortunately, some of my best stuff is super top secret. Can't tell nobody. Sorry. But some of the other stuff I'll definitely talk to you about. I mean, you know, we got piebald, hypo, clown, albino, puzzle. We're going a few different ways with our recessive stuff. Ultramel, there's a few things in there. So you can get an idea on some of the combos we'll be creating. There may be another recessive or two out there that I'm not mentioning. But also, even the one that I do mention, you know, puzzle, that's a really good one. Puzzle is really good. I like that gene. It does some cool things, and it's holding its value well. So, I mean, that's something that's going to be really cool. Basically, you want to take your best genes and put them all together. But you could end up making a really ugly snake. So be careful with what genes you make. And also, some combos are lethal. That's something to think about too, is make sure that you're not actually creating something that's going to be, you know, either huge wobble or any type of birth defects aren't great. It's already, you know, nature is already ruthless in that aspect of you might do absolutely everything right and still get birth defects. You're not God. You can't control that kind of stuff. You can give them the best chances and try to bring your chances of success as high as possible. But in the end, there are factors that we just can't control, and you're going to have to accept that. I learned that early on, and I'm very thankful that I did, because it makes a lot of the issues you may come across, just, you're able to handle them a little bit better. And I would say before I actually bred snakes, I felt like I was a bit of a prima donna, where I was a bit judgy, like, oh, they're not doing this right, they're not doing that right. If you're saying that, you might not be doing things right. Sorry. But, I mean, there was things that I was doing that I didn't know wasn't great for it and stuff like that, is small things, nothing that actually damaged any of my snakes or anything catastrophic by any means. But it was like, things that you learn over time that you're like, oh, I get why they were doing that, because it really doesn't matter anyways, and you're just wasting a bunch of effort for nothing when you could be putting that effort into something that actually helps them. So, yeah, like, big enclosures and this and that, I gotta stray away from those. I don't like that. I have seen too many ball pythons not like the bigger enclosures and not eat as well and have shedding issues and having just looking sad. And you open these things, these dudes are always happy, man. They're always ready to roll. Every time I open it, is you got these guys chilling. Where are we going? What are we doing? This is cool. I do recommend, if you have racks, dude, you should definitely try to, like, check out your snakes often. Hold them, get to know them. It makes their lives better also. Even if they're a little grouchy, you gotta hold them still. I got one that every time I hold him, I'm like, oh man, I gotta wear gloves with him. I've had him for like a year. This dude does not care. He does not care. He does not like people at all. But do I hold him? Yeah, I gotta. I mean, and he doesn't bite me anymore, as long as I don't move quickly. Because he will still definitely get me if I'm moving quick or I'm agitating him at all. He's quick to strike. But I think it's also because, like, when he strikes, nothing happens. It's not like I'm like, punching him or something. It's like he strikes me, I'm like, what the hell? And I shut it. So I learned after a while, after he strikes me, I still have to hold him. Like, because otherwise he thinks that behavior was good and he gets rewarded by being left alone, because that's all he wanted was for me to leave him alone. So I'm like, oh, in the beginning, I was going, oh man, you're pissing him off, leave him alone. Why are you messing with the snake? Da da da. Now I'm like, dang it, he bit me. Now I gotta hold him, So just small things that as you grow, you're like, oh yeah, your perspective on things may change, especially once after you create some snakes. I would definitely say that was a huge perspective change for me. Once I had actually hatched them and it was like, it all became real, I don't know. Kind of like having kids. I mean, you have kids and you're just like, ooh, life got you real for a second, it hit you and you're like, ooh, dang, okay. So I don't know. I'm pretty happy with it. I would say this is definitely a venture worth doing. Anything to do with the ball pythons, man, you're gonna end up loving it. And just make sure you're not too judgy on people, because you might end up being that same person one day, And it's best to stay kind to each other and be smart. That's my message for the day. Now, a secondary message, I would recommend looking up as many combos with your genetics as possible to look and see what genetics are going to make the future look the brightest. And not necessarily do you want the brightest snakes, but you want it to be as good of a combo as you can create. Find out what that's going to be and then shoot for that. Now, if the price doesn't match up, then you start off on smaller levels, or you start off on things that can make it look similar. Because there's a lot of genetics here. Some are stupid expensive, and some are pretty cheap, and they do pretty much the same thing. So you might want to think of just start digging into those genetics, seeing what you have, what you're going to create, where you're going to roll. Let me know what your guys' favorite pairing is for this year. I want to know, what are you guys putting together? What's going to make the coolest combos? And what do you guys think about my combos? We'll see. Thanks, guys.